Cash-a-maniacs.
Geo Gearheads.
Hey, welcome to Geo Gearheads. This is episode 444. I know there's only 3 4s and not 4, but we'll get there eventually because this is a weekly podcast about geocaching and geolocation games. I am Chris of the Northwest, along with your illustrious and often illuminated host, Daryl W4.
Well, you have to be illuminated because otherwise you can't appear on camera. You'd just be invisible.
Your illustrious invisible host.
Wow.
And if they're just listening to us on audio, we're always invisible.
This is true. And we should be invisible. That's why we started this as a podcast.
You know, Daryl,
a vlog.
I heard a while ago, the best way to feel like a ghost in this day and age is to yell at your podcast hosts while you're listening to them in your car driving, because it has absolutely no effect to what they're talking about. So feel free to yell at us when we say something wrong, because we'll have no idea.
So we just need to be like your average political talk radio people, listeners, and we'll feel like a ghost. Yeah, that sounds about right. But you know what? We're going to be talking tonight about geocaching ethics again. And we've brought in yet another really wonderful name in caching, mostly because of his awesome name. It's Geo Monkey Tiger. Can't forget the exclamation mark.
Please don't. Please do not.
Which I apparently did in one of the early drafts, and it stuck.
Geo Monkey Tiger.
Yeah, it's Geo Monkey Tiger, but no, it's Geo Monkey Tiger.
Exactly.
It's two different personalities.
You yell it with delight.
Absolutely.
Or I'll even accept scorn. You know, Geo Monkey Tiger. Ooh. How dare you? How dare you put the log back incorrectly? You know, I'll take.
Suddenly, I'm remembered of a Saturday morning cartoon commercial. Talking about interjections. Maybe you remember that one too.
You know, the Schoolhouse Rock series,
the one,
is on Disney Plus now.
Is it really?
It is. We happened across it the other day, and we're like, "Oh, we have to watch these." Oh my god, I can't watch anymore.
All I remember was there were some conjunctions that apparently were looking for a junction of some type. They were hooking up with words and phrases and clauses. I think I don't know. It seemed awful risque for Saturday morning.
You can't forget Scooter Computer.
I did forget Scooter Computer.
Interplanet Janet.
No, I forgot about Interplanet Janet.
I remember the one that what was it? A bill? Was it the
Bill Becomes Law is the one that I think is the
bill.
Well, see, the problem is
that's one that most people know, I think.
Well, see, the problem is I sort of know that one, but I'm much more familiar with the Simpsons parody of it, where they did "I'm an Amendment to Be," and so like I've completely forgotten the Bill song. I could sing the entire "I'm an Amendment to Be" song, but I don't remember any of the Bill songs. So hopefully, the knowledge of how bills become laws isn't very important in adult life, because I'm afraid the lessons of Schoolhouse Rock have completely faded.
Well, and I just love those older shows like that, because things like the Scooter Computer are so outdated. It is absolutely fun to watch.
That was Scooter Computer and Mr. Chips.
Yeah. Scooter Computer and Mr. Chips.
No memory whatsoever. None.
How about 3 is a magic number?
You know, I don't remember that one either.
Okay. I'll give you one more. The preamble. It's no.
Well, no. I was gonna say the one I remember. There was one about Bunker Hill or something, wasn't there? Wasn't there one about the?
I seem to remember that. Yeah.
World is what I think.
Yeah, something like that. Of course, granted, my memory of it's so strong. I'm like, yeah, there was one that had something to do with Bunker Hill, Whites Their Eyes, Shot Heard Round the World. Yeah.
Again, yes. It was Paul. It would start off with the historic ride of Paul Revere, I think. Though I think they phrased it more melodious.
Perhaps if I paid more attention, I would have done better caching in Boston.
Oh, it was called The Shot Heard Round the World. I've got a website up. Now, what
Oh.
about lolly, 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 get your adverb?
That one I do remember. Lolly, 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 get your adverb. Except I literally know that one line. Lolly, 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 get your adverbs here. Da 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 da. Yeah, I don't know anymore.
Wow. By the way, Jim Stark says he has the entire Schoolhouse Rock series on DVD.
I do too. I got it for my kids. It's like, you know what? This got me through some of schooling. My kids need to listen to this. And
it was quite the thing at the
yeah.
Yes, well, I think it was like this late 70s, early 80s that they were producing those.
Dick Magnet goes, Daryl can sing? See? You need the exclamation point. Geo Monkey Tiger.
Well, I was going to say that sounded more like a question.
Oh,
to which the answer is no, I cannot. I can butcher, I can't sing.
Starcasher says, I just found a cache called Zero is My Hero this afternoon. And that was one of them.
Yes, it was.
I do remember that one. I don't remember. I'm guessing it was about Zero. I don't remember any other content about it, and I certainly couldn't name the tune.
Yeah, I don't know that I could actually quote any of those, but I'm seeing an awesome like GeoArt series or something around Schoolhouse Rocks.
That'd be an interesting idea.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh. GSM times 2 said I had Winchell Maloney and Rock and Bullwinkle. No education here.
Hey, there was a lot of important.
Bullwinkle.
There was a lot of important stuff about Russian agents and squirrels, and there's a lot to learn there.
Yes, you must learn about the moose and the squirrel. That was not even close, but
I will admit the squirrel knowledge has come in much handier than the moose knowledge. I don't think I've really encountered many moose. I see squirrels on a daily basis, but
I do. And the squirrels,
watch me pull a rabbit out of my head.
The squirrels are so much more articulate and knowledgeable than the meese.
Squirrels or moose are not particularly abundant here in Georgia.
Huh.
I don't know that we have any up here. I know further north we do, but not as far as I know around here. But we do have lots of deer.
We have the deer as well. You know, it's interesting. Both deer and moose are singular and plural. Ooh, chew on that.
Yeah. But Tick Magnet says that this is great, much better than ethics.
Well,
all we had to do was the Schoolhouse Rock show.
Well, I think the question is it ethical to claim that there's a moose in your backyard when when you live in Georgia and there clearly aren't, you know? I mean, I think it's a valid question, you know. I could just look and point and go, "Oh, there's 12 moose in my backyard." And is that ethical or not, you know? They're guarding a giant ammo can.
Well, I think we need to have more info.
They're purple, about 12 feet tall.
Now I question what you've drank before the show.
Well, you know, I had to be prepared for the show. So
yeah,
wasn't that in the show notes that I was supposed to drink heavily before I joined?
Yeah. Yes. Obviously. Thank you for following the rules. Not many people do.
Well, how can we have an ethics discussion without it?
I am a rule follower. I will say that. I'm just sorry. I got to throw this out just because it was so hilarious. I was out caching with some friends the other day, and I have some friends some good friends that aren't particularly the rule follower that I am. And there was a cache that we were trying to get to, and it was one of these. We could either walk like almost a mile, parking where we should, or there was this kind of side street with a turn lane in the middle, like a very unbusy side street with a turn lane in the middle, a middle turn lane. And they're like, just park in the turn lane. We're not going to be just a few minutes. You know, seriously, just park right here. We're not going to walk this mile. It's 300 feet that way, you know? So I relented and parked there. And 10 minutes later, we come out of the forest, the trail. There are not one, not two, not three, but 4 cop cars pulled up. Like investigating the car. They've called my wife at this point saying, Mrs. Janiak, we found your car in the middle of the road, abandoned with the engine still warm. Do you know, did somebody, I'm like, seriously, this is what I get for listening to you.
Yet we have a viewer who says you are such the rule follower that it makes caching more difficult.
that I see the thing on the screen. That rule follower is that person is who told me to park in the middle of the street. It would be fine.
Oh, too much.
Yeah. Well, we're 10 minutes into the show and we've yet to talk about ethics.
I'm
What
sorry.
about Conjunction Junction?
Well, that's not ethics.
Function.
Actually, did Schoolhouse Rock do a episode on ethics? I think they did. Maybe we should just refer to that and continue talking about the show, and then we have our ethics show. Anyway, why don't we actually get to our first question, which comes from Bloody Cool. I have very much enjoyed WV Tim as a guest on the show, especially when it was not just a show about his amazing gadget caches. He is a lot of fun. I hope you bring him back more often. For caching ethics, the topic of group caching brought up two topics that might be interesting to discuss. Number one, claiming FTF on a geocache that you have never been near by asking a muggle with you whom you once cached with you to find it for your team. And he gives a geocaching code, but I'm not sure I actually understand this question very much. But the way that I take this to mean is instructing a muggle to find the cache for you and log your name on the cache.
In other words, introduce a new person to geocaching. I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, if they were a muggle and now they're finding and signing caches, that's a step up. We've just welcomed somebody to our community. I think that's incredible.
I'm not sure that I would qualify that as ethical, but I do applaud that that interpretation. You know, I wonder if this is like a situation where they're using something like FaceTime.
Boy, that's stretching it there.
No, I agree, but if it were something like you're caching with someone via FaceTime, like let's say I'm not a cacher, but my wife is, and she's told me that there's a cache that just published right outside my hotel. Help us get it, kind of thing. That I could see an argument for, but I still don't think it's legit.
Well, I guess the question is, in your scenario, if they FaceTime you and said, there's a cache that published right outside the hotel, help us find it, would you really claim, like, would you just be nice and help them find it? I mean, I think that's perfectly wonderful to say, sure, FaceTime me and I'll, look around and, hey, look under that lamp skirt or check the bush or whatever. Does that stretch all the way to I'm putting my name in the log and claiming it, as a first to find in my stats, so to speak? It's an interesting question, right? I mean, and really in some ways, the topics of ethics and geocaching are typically interesting, and save for a couple things that I think are really detrimental to other players. There's a couple of actions that people can take that I think are detrimental to other players, and those I have a really tough time with. But at the end of the day, would I claim an FTF on something I asked somebody else to go log my name on because I wasn't there? Probably not. And I'd even stretch it further. And let's say somebody called me up and said, hey, this new puzzle published near us. Can you help us solve it? And let's say I solve the puzzle for them. Say, a friend of mine across the country calls me up and says, we can't figure out this puzzle. Do you have any ideas? And I look at it, go, oh, I just solved one like this. Boom, boom, boom. Here's the final, and they go out and get it. I personally, I wouldn't claim an FTF on that. But I don't necessarily have a problem if the person next to me wants to, just because, it's not how I would play the game, but certainly it doesn't hurt me any for them to do that.
Yeah, well, and kind of where I was going is if you're pulling the strings and whoever is your muggle buddy is going after it,
right?
They're just like your telepresence robot.
Interesting.
So that does add a little bit of a twist to it. I still don't think it would be ethical to log that.
Yeah.
GSM times 2 says GMT. I didn't realize your initials were a time zone.
Well, there, and no offense to GSM times 2, but it's GMT put it into an interesting perspective. Not GMT put it into an interesting perspective. Subtle difference. But yes, we do the GMT quite a bit.
Does FaceTime count as being there? And Daryl, you said, if you're nothing more than a telepresence robot. Now, I don't remember who, to see how memorable it was, but I've been with somebody on FaceTime or some sort of video chat while they're looking. In fact, I've done it with others too. Here, come on, I'm going to go look for this and
sure,
let them be there.
And the big problem that I have with going to that level is then what about Periscope, where you're streaming to mass quantities of people? All of those people can't claim it because they're not actually participating. Right. I don't think there's any question for anyone in that.
Right. So when I did it, did you look? I see that over there. Did you go look there? What about this over here? Okay, I'll go check that out for you, but it's not there.
Right.
And usually when I find it, I won't say anything. I'll move off to another spot and then say, hey guys, I did find it. I'm going to end the broadcast and go log it. So hopefully I have a good poker face.
See, now my strategy on this is I just tend to be an incompetent cacher, so nobody ever calls me and FaceTimes me and says, will you help us find this? They know the answer is no.
Oh. Well, have you
see, it just skirts around the no, I started out of the gate being incompetent. So
okay.
No, I clearly, I started at expert level not finding caches. So, and I've just, I've refined that a little bit. I cannot find caches a lot faster than I used to.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm pretty good at that.
Okay.
RG says that the rule states you must physically sign the log. And I think that's actually a guideline. I don't believe we have rules.
Are there rules or are they all guidelines?
They are all guidelines last I knew, which actually comes up to a question that we had earlier in the show that we didn't have a chance to get to because it was too early. And I'm looking for that in the chat and I can't find that. Of course. All right. So maybe not.
Well, in the question about physically signing the logbook, okay, if I'm standing there with you and you and I are caching together and you sign the log and you write my name and I'm standing right next to you, I would absolutely 100% without question not even think twice about that being quote ethical or not. I mean it would never dawn on me that wasn't. And I guess the question is how much different, where does the line become? Okay, if I'm standing next to you and you write my name in the logbook, that's one thing. But if I'm 3 continents away on a FaceTime or a Periscope, that's certainly a very different sounding situation. And is that do I now cross a line there, so to speak?
Yeah, and we did talk about the team names and such when we talked like 2 or 3 shows ago on ethics, I think. And I think we said ethically it's not a problem, but according to the guidelines, it is a problem. I could be wrong in my memory on that, but I think that's where we settled. And I go out a lot with groups of people, and even if we're not using a team name, whoever actually grabs the cache is signing the log for all of us.
Yeah, exactly. It just makes sense. Why spend 5 minutes handing a log around?
Yeah. Now there's other times when I'm caching with people I don't know because we just ran into each other where I do hand it around. Right. But when it's someone that you're caching with on a regular basis, you just do it as a shortcut, basically.
Yeah.
And convenience and a nicety.
I love stamps. If I cache with people a lot, I'll get a stamp with both their names. And
absolutely. That's all. Yeah, I love those.
Yeah, anytime I go on a big trip with a group, we always get a stamp with all our names on it, and somebody stamps the log.
Yeah, and if you do any number of the letter boxes, you want to grab a stamp anyway.
Exactly.
It's just nice to have because then you're participating in the letterbox properly. Yeah. I did find the comment, though, which was Vince Rowe, who said he wanted to start with, where is the rule book? I know there are guidelines, but I've never seen the rules in written form. That's because they don't have them. They're guidelines. Yeah.
Because geocaching is a living game. It's constantly changing because people push the envelope, whether it be a creative hide or, earth cache or virtual cache, that there's nothing to physically sign. So it's tough to say you have to sign the log when maybe in a few cases there aren't a log.
Let's see. His next one is FTF logging. Is it ethical to not log your FTF for days or weeks and let others think the FTF is still available?
You know what the answer to that one is? It depends.
Yes.
Where was I? I was in Oregon on vacation, and we were spending one night in one town and going on to another, and I looked ahead and I go, oh, look, there's an FTF in the town that we're going to. Well, I'm sure it will be gone by the time I get there. And it wasn't. Like, look at that. Cachely still reports it as an FTF option. You know what? I'm going to go do it. And sure enough, I get there. It's been signed. So it's been over 8 hours since it's out. But some areas have the unwritten rule, even the unwritten guideline, that, you know what, we don't log FTF so that people will go out and get them because they think, oh, maybe I can get it. So it encourages finding the new caches. What do you think of that?
I get that logic. The question is it ethical not to log your FTF for days or weeks? And my answer would be, I don't see any ethical issue with it at all. Like it doesn't cross an ethical boundary in any way, shape, or form for me. I will tell you this, I will never not do that. Right. Mm-hmm. I will always drop a log of some kind. And I'm notorious. I'm really bad. I will say this, I'm really bad about writing really overblown logs, and I hate doing it on my phone. So I don't really log from the field always. And I'm real fanatical about, I have to log my caches in order. So if I'm doing a day of 10 caches and the first find was the 8th find, I'm definitely not logging that in the field because I've got to log those others, just in my silly mind. But I will always at least drop a note and say, FTF at 10 a.m., real log later, or something like that. Just something to let people know. And I will always do that just because, I know people, I know that's part of the game, and I know sometimes people drive an hour to go get a first to find, and get really irritated when they show up and it's not there. And I know that I'm extremely appreciative whenever somebody does log the FTF so that I could say, hey, I don't have to spend my time on this today. And I kind of understand the argument about, oh, we want people to go see the new caches and such. But if that's the only way you can generate interest in your caches is to have an FTF available, you're probably not doing your caches right. I mean, I don't mean that probably as harshly as it comes across, but if you need a gimmick for somebody to go visit your cache, there are other ways to get people to generate interest there. And I just think it's a tremendous courtesy to other cachers, and one that I would not deprive another cacher from. Is it ethical? Absolutely. I don't have any ethical issue with it whatsoever. Do I think you're a much nicer person when you do log your FTF in a timely manner, or at least drop a note on the cache? I absolutely do.
See, I'm not sure that I would say that it's isn't an ethical issue if you're intentionally not logging for days. I think at that point it starts to get into that gray area for sure.
Now let me can I interject here with an aside on this? So here's another scenario where I've seen people that I know are fanatical, I log an FTF right away kind of thing, not log an FTF, and that's 10 new caches drop. And people will sometimes use the rationale to say, I'm not going to log my FTFs because I don't want somebody to know they've gone to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're going to leapfrog and go to 7, or something in the series to try to get ahead of them or something like that. And I've seen people kind of do that where the log is delayed, a few hours in some cases if it's a hiking series or something where you have to do a number of caches. So, that would be kind of an interesting kind of question there, and again, I don't know that I necessarily see an ethical issue with it, and I would sort of be more lenient of the idea on a series for that very reason. I get that it's a game and you want to try to get the FTFs, but that would be the kind of interesting aside on that, I think.
Yeah, well, and that brings up a good point. And I think there's also a legitimate reason why you wouldn't want to do those logs right then is because you want to take some more time, wait till you found the whole thing and publish that whole story as part of your log.
Yes.
But you still could post the found
FTF
log.
at 10. Yeah.
Yeah. And this is coming from someone who back in the pre-smartphone days would actually log through that WAP service that they used to have. So I would have just like the time and FTF, STF, TTF, whatever, so that at least people knew it was there.
Yeah.
And then I'd go back and edit my logs sometimes days later, but I would at least, I wanted to have something up to be courteous to the other first to finders.
Yeah. And see, and as a fellow cacher, I love that courtesy. To me, that's, the 98% of what you do in caching really has no impact on anybody else. If I want to log every cache within 15 miles of my house, for the most part, it doesn't impact anybody else in the world if I log it or not, even if I'm just sitting in my living room doing this. But I love when you do have those opportunities to be courteous to your fellow cachers and give them consideration and respect for what they're going through, to be able to say, hey, I'm going to log this because it lets others know, and somebody might change their mind on a trip they were planning on taking out, or they were going to be late for dinner because they were going to stop for an FTF, and the FTF's gone, so I'll go home and have my dinner on time or something. I know I appreciate that courtesy quite a bit, and so I'm always happy to return that courtesy when I'm in the field. And I will admit, like I said, I'm kind of bad about it. And I'll drop a note a lot of times. And I did have a friend yell at me one time because I had found a cache. I dropped a note on it, and they had woken up. And you mentioned Cachely. They had Cachely, and Cachely, of course, doesn't recognize a note as an FTF. So they got all excited because, oh, Cachely says there's an FTF a mile from my house or 2 miles from my house. And they ran out to go get it. And they're like, dang it, your name was on the log. I'm like, well, sorry, I tried.
So RG says I have 811 FTFs, and I always log at least an ML.
More later.
There I guess you say, what kind of okay, more later. So I
kind of like doing a note, just because the one thing that I do really enjoy writing a good story about a cache. And I think, to me, that's like one of the nicest things you could do for a CO is write a great story about your finding their cache. Mm-hmm. And the one thing I hate about editing logs is that COs don't get a notification of an edited log. Right. So if you drop a found it log and say more later, when you do update it more later, the CO's either got to go out and get it, or, if they're a Project GC premium member, you can sign up for those notifications and get the notification when there's an edited log. But I'm not sure how many people do that, or what frequency that is. So that's why I tend to drop a note if I'm not going to do a real log, and then do like an actual log so that the CO gets that full notification.
Well, GSM times 2 has a good point here. So he says in Chris's story, he got to be excited about going for an FTF, then felt disappointed of not getting it. A more later log would have denied him that excitement. And, I wouldn't have rushed over to get that particular cache if there wasn't. Yeah.
But it also would have denied him that disappointment.
And I haven't gotten over that. The counseling helps, but it's not.
You're doing great. You don't let it get to you. You've been doing well so far.
A little PTSD right there.
GSM times 2 said that he will log the more later as a found, then delete that and create the good log, not edit the old one.
Oh, interesting.
And I've seen people do that strategy as well.
Yeah, I always left it in place and just edited, but that doesn't give the CO the notification. But this is also back in the days when we didn't have smartphones. So now when I do log an FTS, I have, actually I don't know if I still have it, but I had an FTF template on the on Cachely, so that it had the appropriate brackets and everything, so it would be automatically counted for Project GC, and then tweak that from there. But it will take me sometimes, half an hour or whatever to get from wherever I found that FTF to someplace I can actually, sit down and properly log. So I'm probably slower about my logging now in the smartphone days than I was before.
If I can interject again, so an interesting question. So, just talking about this and on this topic, the three of us go to hunt a cache together. We all show up same time for a first find. We come independently. We're not together. We just all happen to be on the site at the same time. You look in the bush on the left. I look in the bush in the middle, and you look in the bush on the right. You come up with it. Did we all FTF it?
As far as I'm concerned, yes, because you're operating as a team.
And I would agree. I mean, I would agree. I know some people that would argue, no, you can only FTF it if you were the one that put your hand in the container. But my thought on that is, well, that's stupid. If there's 3 bushes, why are we all going to jump in the same bush together? It makes the most sense that each of us would take one of the 3. I mean, that's just being smart about it.
And it looks really awkward to the muggles that walk by when we all come out of the bush.
Well, and I like when I get to the first to find, having other people join me for it and search as a team and do joint FTFs.
It's one of the few times you get to have a real social experience cache. I mean, other than events, obviously, of course.
But. Or if you plan something with someone.
Right.
And that's one of the reasons I always thought it was fun was, the impromptu events that you had at the geocache.
Yep.
And I don't know how long it's been, but it used to be fairly regular that we'd all meet up at the first cache that published and then go and try to find the rest of them that had just published.
That's cool.
Yeah. And that was, at least I think a decade ago, but it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
We just don't do that anymore.
Yeah. Going back to, multiple cachers end up at ground zero at the same time. Even if I didn't find it, I eliminated a position where it could be.
Exactly.
So I helped in the search. Now, if I never get out of the car and I still claim FTF, that's not right.
Well, and we had one cache that was quite a long drive, but we decided to go for it anyway. And we happened to cross the cacher who actually did get FTF. And he gave us shared FTF because he had lost part of the cache and couldn't find it. And we had found it.
Maybe.
So it was like, what the heck?
Would that be like FTR, first to repair?
Yeah, probably. But apparently we had only missed first to find by like a minute at most. And he had found it quickly. He's like, it was obvious it was right here, but I dropped this part of it. Can you help me find it? And it took us, I want to say, like 15 minutes to find it. It took us longer to find the missing piece than it took him to find it when he got to the site.
My general rule of thumb for me personally is if somebody walks up while I'm in the middle of a first to find search, if they get to me before I've put the cache back, I'm more than happy to share a first to find with them. Even if I've maybe signed the log and put the log back in the cache and, they come back and I've got the bison in my hand or something and I'm getting ready to hang it back up in the tree or whatever, I have zero problem whatsoever. And to me, again, it's another one of those things. What does it cost me? I mean, if somebody wants to come up and enjoy FTF and the experience with it, I still have the cache in my hand. They just got there. They obviously missed it by 30 seconds. I have no issue whatsoever. It doesn't take away my FTF in any way, shape, or form. It doesn't negate my stats in any way, shape, or form. And you know what? I probably made somebody's day that, they instead of missing the cache by 30 seconds, they're an FTF. And I think, hey, what the point of the game is to have fun and have a great time with it. And if I can help somebody else have a great time, go for it.
All right, let's move off the FTF thing. And we do have Just Finding Our Way, who says, I'd love to hear some discussion of the ethics of signing a simple challenge that you obviously qualify for with a note, then claiming the find months later.
Well,
see, that one I'm just not sure on.
So I've done something like this. It wasn't a challenge. It was a puzzle. And I was out with friends and they're like, oh, hey, there's a solution to a puzzle over here. And I went and signed it. And then I went home and solved it. Now, it took me a couple of weeks to solve it before I actually submitted the log, but I had done it.
See,
Okay.
and I'm going back to what is the intent of doing that is whether it becomes ethical or not.
I have I do a number of my caches are geared towards newer cachers. I try to do kind of educational caches and things that newer cachers can achieve and such. So I have a challenge series where there's like a bronze, silver, and gold, right? The idea is that the bronze is something that most people could do. So like I have a DT one, it's just 27, of the 81. You got to have a third of the DTs, just any third, and you can sign the log for the bronze. And then there's a silver for 2/3 and the gold for the whole fizzy. And the idea is that if you're a newer cacher, you get the thrill of kind of doing a challenge cache and signing one, and maybe I'll work towards the gold or something to get that. And I kind of keep an eye out for that because I get a lot of newer cachers and I love to just encourage them. So if like I get somebody that signed the 27 log, I'll often just look at their profile real quick. And, if they're a newer cacher, I'll just send them a quick note and say, hey, I saw you log my cache. Great job. Keep up the good work, blah, blah, blah. So I saw a bronze one and they had said something like, I signed the log 2 months ago. And I'm logging it as a fine today. And I thought, oh, well, they must be a newer cacher. Let me take a look. And this person had like 17,000 fines, and obviously had, qualified for this well before they ever came across my caches. And so then I just poked around a little because I was just being nosy, and they had like a 600-day mystery streak. So to me, it was obvious that
they're padding.
They're looking for challenges to sign, and I've seen this a few times. They're looking for challenges to sign, and I'm gonna write a note because I found it today, and and 4 months from now when I can't find a mystery near my house, I'll log this challenge as a find, and it's another one of those. Would I do it? No, I wouldn't do it, and not that it was a super long one, but I did a 4-month mystery streak when I did my daily streak that I finally broke down and did. I did a mystery every day for 4 months. And I made a point to go out every day for 4 months and find a different mystery cache, and some might even argue, I solved a bunch of them in advance, so I'd have them ready to go. Was that ethical, or should I have solved a mystery cache every day or whatever? But every single day of that streak, I went out and signed a log on a mystery cache somewhere that I did. And so, it frustrates me a little bit when I see somebody, getting a 600-day mystery streak, because I know I worked my rear off for a 120-day mystery streak or whatever it was. But at the end of the day, it doesn't really affect me. And if that's how you want to play it, it doesn't really, it's not how I would choose. But is it ethical? Again, it's not how I would choose.
Yeah, I would say that the scenario of you're padding, you're going out finding a whole bunch so that you can go and and it doesn't matter what type. But logging them on the day you need to fill your streak, that's unethical. I don't think it's a problem really, because who cares?
Right.
The other people streaking care, but
in the example you gave about I found a puzzle cache and I just don't feel great about solving it or logging it until I've solved it, I think that's totally acceptable. I think that's, and quite honestly, that's above and beyond what I would do. I'd just be like, oh, sweet, I didn't have to solve that monster of a cache. So glad I was out with somebody that could solve it today, that would be my attitude. So, I'll give you kudos for that, and I know people, I have friends that are like that, like, I got to solve this before I feel comfortable, logging it, and that's great. But yeah, I'm not as big on the streak extenders. Like, oh, I just need this for a streak. So,
well, I think we see, logging the cache or finding the cache one day and logging it another, really big on these weekend souvenir runs, like say Earth Cache weekend, right? Oh, yeah, I don't have any near my house. So I'm going to go out a month before as I'm driving somewhere else, go get this Earth Cache, and I just won't log it until that day.
Now,
you guys are supposed to jump in.
Yeah, I was going to go back to the intent, because going all the way back to this question, if that cacher logged the note because they think they might not have qualified and takes several months to determine, oh yeah, I did do that. And quite honestly, a year ago, I probably would go, that's just being negligent. But now I understand how crazy busy life gets sometimes. And maybe it did in fact take him 3 months or her, take him or her 3 months to get back to check Project GC or whatever and confirm, or to even remember, oh yeah, I have this log sitting out there. So that's just, being sloppy. It's not being unethical.
And I can totally buy that. I can absolutely buy that. And, and I've had caches that I've forgotten to log. I'll be out with some friends and we get 30 caches this day. And, it's only 3 months later that I happen to be looking and realize that, 2 other friends that I was with that day logged this cache and I didn't. And oops, I've got to fix it. Now, of course, I would normally fix it for the day we found it. But I mean, I don't necessarily have a problem with that. Or even I was with a good friend of mine. And we did a bunch of challenges around Kansas City. There's like 200 challenges or something like that. And I had no idea which ones I qualified for and which ones I didn't. And we just, we did the whole thing. I mean, we did all of them. So when I got back home, it was a real big, okay, I qualify for this one. I don't qualify for this one. And it took me a while to kind of sort it out. But everything I logged the day, everything I qualified for, we logged and we did it. And of course that does bring up the whole question about I signed the log on March 1st, but I didn't qualify until a year later. What does that look like? Do I log it the very day I qualify for it? And, and there's all kinds of weird statistical implications. I did a cache. It was an east-west cache, and you had to find a cache in a state on an East Coast and a state on a West Coast in the same day. And I was taking a flight. I live in Atlanta, and I was taking a flight to California. And so I thought, I'm going to do this cache, this challenge cache today. So I went and signed the log, and the log of the cache was right by the airport, along with a couple of easy grabs that were meant just for this, kind of cache. So I grabbed my Georgia cache. I'm like, okay, that's locked in. I signed the log on the challenge cache, but I didn't log it because I said, I haven't been to California yet. I haven't fulfilled this challenge. So I flew to California, got off the plane, found a California cache, logged that, and then I said, great, now I qualify for the Atlanta cache. I'm going to log the Atlanta cache. The next day I'm looking at Project GC, and it says, furthest distance traveled in a day, yesterday, because it thought I went Georgia to California to Georgia because of the way I logged it. And that just bothered me so much that I wound up deleting my log, and I logged it for some random day, several days later when I was in Georgia, and, I had just Georgia fines, and I knew it wouldn't kind of warp that statistic. But, I always kind of, I sometimes almost don't sign challenge caches just because I hate thinking about all the ramifications about, well, if, what's it going to look like if, I sign if I log this challenge cache that I found in Oregon today, and, I was in Atlanta yesterday, and, what does it look like? But for the most part, I mean, it always makes me think for a minute. And I do sometimes like, oh, I could log this today. Well, no, I'm not going to log it today. I'm going to wait for, a day next week when I'm not caching, and do that and try to catch those up. So sorry, I rambled on it a bit of a tangent. I apologize.
No. And it's good. One of the things that I was thinking about early on is there's at least twice that I can come up with where we were out caching and Renee had a cache on hers that I didn't have on mine. And when we went to one of them, we actually went to the cache and said, your name's already in here. And I think what we had determined was this was in some of her earlier days of caching, where she was constantly swearing at CGO because she couldn't wrap her head around it. And I think she thought she had logged it and didn't. For whatever reason, it didn't get logged. So now she's got other problems with potentially her milestones.
Right. And that becomes the question with challenge caches too, right? If I try to go back and say I qualified for this now, but I signed it a year ago and now my milestone, no, I'm not going to do that because it qualified as a fine just today. But it's a weird question. And don't get me wrong, I love challenge caches. I love hunting them. I love really interesting challenges. I love using those as goals, oh gosh, there's this cool challenge cache over here where, I have to find, there was one I signed in Kansas City that I just started working on where you had to do the alphabet 3 times. You had to do A to Z anytime, A to Z in a week, and A to Z in a day. And I thought, oh, that just sounds like a ton of fun. And I had the anytime, but I didn't have the day in the week. So like I found somebody had an alphabet series somewhat near me. I'm like, okay, I'm going to do a plan, and this is going to be locked and loaded. Someday I'll go and do these. And, here's 26 that I could do in a week or whatever. I mean, I love challenge caches, but it is just weird sometimes and perplexing to me, especially as somebody that's really kind of particular about how I log caches. But again, ethically, I think as long as you're logging them not for the purposes of extending a streak or padding a stat or doing these other things, I don't have any issue with it whatsoever. Whether it's just because it's a mystery you really wanted to solve before you logged, or whether it was a challenge cache that I only looked once a quarter to see if Project GC shows I've qualified for challenges, and now I just realize there's 10 challenges I've signed and I qualify for. I don't have any issues with those at all.
Vince says verbatim from the guideline. Oh, I'm sorry. I think we're clicking in different ones there, Daryl. Verbatim from the guidelines. Cachers may sign a challenge cache's physical log at any time. However, the challenge cache may not be logged as found online until after the log is signed.
I think they meant the requirements are met. They must mean
yeah.
Well, and it continues, and the challenge tasks have been met and documented.
There you go.
Oh, got it.
There you go. So, I tend to agree with that one. The reason is, there's a challenge cache can be quite a distance away from you, right?
Yes, absolutely.
I'm working on, let's just say I'm working on a Delorum challenge, but the Delorum cache for my state is, 3 or more hours away. Well, if I happen to be going there and I know I'm really close to finishing the Delorum challenge, I may go find the cache and sign it.
Yes.
And then log it once I've met the requirements. Just because of the drive involved.
My good friend Poan and I are been doing a lot of counties, and we drove to both Illinois and Missouri recently and did all the counties in those states. And we were so grateful because both of those states have county challenge caches where you have to contact the CO after you qualify. And in both cases, we reached out beforehand and said, hey, we're driving 14 hours from Atlanta to be here. We know we're going to drive past this challenge at some point. Can we, please have the information? Obviously, we won't log it as a find online until, we've met the requirements, but, we don't want to drive all the way back from Atlanta to, Jefferson City, Missouri to log this later. And in both of those cases, they were very kind and gave us the information and did it. And that's the perfect example, right? I mean, we know we've got a 4-day plan in the books. We know we're finishing Illinois or Missouri today, this week. And it's a long way to go.
Right.
All right. Well, why don't we actually wrap it up? Because we've come close to that 50-minute mark. And I think this is a good place to start before we get into that next 50-minute mark. So thank you so much, GeoMonkey Tiger, for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Before we go, why don't you let people know where they can find out more about what you're up to?
Boy, I don't know the answer to that question.
I was going to say,
I didn't know there was a pop quiz.
Always.
Well, obviously, the police blogger is always a great place to look. And
well, only when you park in the middle of a street.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm pretty proud. And most people just have 3 cop cars pulled up. It was 4. You heard the part where it was 4 cop cars. Yeah. Actually, I'll throw a shameless plug out there. The 2 big things that we have going on. Obviously, in Georgia, the Georgia Geocachers Association is a great group, and they're getting ready to do their big event next weekend, where we do our Hall of Fame announcements, and it's the birthday celebration, which had to be postponed. Usually, the birthday celebration's in June, so that's really exciting. And then also, we're really looking forward to in September on Labor Day weekend. I'm not going to say me, but there are a few of us that are working really, really hard to host a mega event to launch a brand new Gadget Cache Trail in Jackson County, Georgia. And so right now, and I'm knocking on wood, right now it's still on the books. We feel that it's still going to happen. We're pretty confident of that. But we're going to have we have a mega event. We'll have a ton of new caches. We've got about 150 caches they're going to drop for that event. And then we're also really pleased. We're expecting the GPS Adventures Mages to be there as well. So it's going to be a huge weekend, just tons of fun stuff. We're really looking forward to that. That's in April, or I'm sorry, April. Why did I say April? It was originally April. It's Labor Day weekend. It's the Sunday of Labor Day, September 6th. And boy, if I were prepared, I would have a GC code in there. But if you just search GPS Adventures Mazes, you'll find it pretty quickly. There aren't a lot of those on the books right now. So
there's 150 caches. That's only going to be like an hour and a half, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, we've got a variety. So we've got a the point of it is Jackson County, Georgia, actually had one of the highest favorite pointed cache trails out there. So my good friend Poan had worked really closely with Jackson County and got a great trail of caches out there. Really cool gadget caches, all kinds of fun stuff. And this was like 5 years ago. It's got like 15,000 favorite points and just ridiculous. I mean, it's just a crazy, awesome trail. And so the local tourism board had approached her and said, we're really interested in continuing this. And Jackson County is kind of known for its agritourism. And its agricultural impact. So we're launching a whole new agritourism themed trail, and they're all really cool gadget caches. We've got just really, there's a couple of cache ideas that I've never even seen before that are just really cool that we're excited about. So we've got the trail, and there's 14 of the gadget caches, and if you get those, you can earn a coin and do that. But we're also we have a brand new cow geo art that we're going to drop, and we're also dropping a whole bunch of challenge caches, and then we're dropping all kinds of caches so that people could do busy days and things like that, because we will have a mega GPS Adventures Maze, a community celebration event, and we're close enough for people that haven't done it, we're close enough to webcams and such that people can get 13 icons in a day, which is pretty darn spectacular. So if they haven't cashed it out. So anyway, we're really looking forward to it. I mean, obviously we're really monitoring the COVID situation, but we feel that with the structure that we have in our event, we feel that it's going to be, we feel that we are going to be able to do that. So that's the big exciting thing. You could go, it's gagpsmaze.com. If you want to get more information, and that's got links. I saw Anna's one of our superstars on that project, and she's posting the GC codes for the actual events. But you could also go to gagpsmaze.com.
So the mega is GC 8 Golf 1 Mike 4, and the GPS Adventure Maze is GC 8 Juliet 18 Juliet.
Yeah.
So. There you go.
It's the Gosh Adventure Maze.
No, it's GPS Adventure Maze, not Gosh.
Oh, darn it. I was getting excited that it was a whole new, adventure maze.
Maybe like a goth adventure maze.
Well, like when you have like an update to something, you have like the A level and then the B level and such. So, the O level, we're doing it in reverse. So it was GPS and GOS is actually getting closer to the beginning. It's we don't have a lot of details we can't share yet because things are still super secret, but trust me, it's going to be amazing. And if you love cows, you have got to come to Jackson County that weekend. We are going to have so much cow fun. It's unbelievable. It really is. So
like cow poke.
We probably won't poke the cows. They really don't like that, Chris.
Huh.
Yeah, I just want to see the flying cows.
Sorry, our cows don't really fly. Our cows moo a lot.
The pigs fly. The cows.
Well, you just haven't had a big enough tornado yet, then.
This is true. We're kind of hoping we don't get one that weekend. But.
No, I would assume that's just kind of one of our inside jokes because we lived through the Twister movie phenomenon.
Yes, I knew exactly what you're referring to.
Yes, and so that's cows. To us, everything is cows.
See, you guys need to make the trip down to Jackson County, Georgia that weekend.
I'd love to. I don't think it's viable.
We don't want to hear that.
On a separate note, Renee just got her schedule, They're going back to school August 14th this year.
What?
Can you believe that?
No. They usually go back to school on my birthday. That's 2 weeks before my birthday. That's not right.
No, but I think what they're doing, looking at the schedule, they haven't even blocked out a lot of the vacation time.
Mm-hmm.
So it looks like they're trying to go longer to allow like a month or so in the middle to shut down. I think that's what they're trying to do.
Yeah, I'm just not convinced that we're ready to go back anywhere just yet.
No, it certainly seems that way.
Unfortunately.
Yes.
We've had a lot of discussion with our event and whether or not this is something we could pull off, and we feel that with the right precautions, we should be able to do it. Simply because it is a very spread out. I mean, people are going to be spread out all over the county. The central focus of the event isn't the gathering, other than the GPS maze, and we think that we can, with the proper use of, distancing and masks and cleaning and disinfecting and such, we feel confident that we can manage that. So we're, barring anything getting worse, we're hopefully looking good for that.
Yeah, and all participants have to don the full hazmat suit before going in.
Exactly.
So that was standard anyway.
So, well, what we thought about making, traditionally the GPS Adventures maze isn't much of a maze. You usually can find your way through it. We thought about making it about 50 times the size and like making it literally impossible to get through. And we thought people would spread out enough just trying to find the way out that,
well, they're all going to end up in one corner and die without food and water.
Yeah, but if they're really lost, are they going to know, and are they going to blame it on us?
So you need those portals.
Exactly.
Then you'll be all set.
Those would be helpful.
Because then, as soon as someone gets too close, open up the portal. Mm-hmm. They fly through. Boom. And no more problem.
That's right.
Well, until they fall on someone else, maybe that's a problem.
That's not the way it works.
And I'm really sorry. I have to interject one last stupid thought just so you can laugh at me a little bit. But somebody, Francis Ibero, there's a whole conversation going on that I don't know why this came up, but they said the knights that say knee, I guess that's the Monty Python skit. Mm-hmm. We were working on a puzzles cache together. We were working through it. We had to figure out what the knights that say knee like. And apparently it's shrubbery is the answer. But I was the one that found the answer. And I was very confused. And they said, well, what's the answer? I said, well, apparently they like shrub berries. And they're like, what? I'm like, yeah, shrub berries. I don't know what shrub berries are. I'm thinking strawberries, blackberries, blueberries. What's a shrub berry? And then finally somebody went, are you saying shrubbery?
Elderberries.
Like, no, shut up. Leave me alone. So there you go. This is why nobody calls me for a PAF.
Yeah. I now I gotta go watch some more Monty Python because I love Monty Python.
Thank you so much for having us on or having me on. I very much
all
appreciate
three
it.
of the Geo, the monkey, and the tiger.
That's right.
And the tiger.
And the exclamation mark. Don't leave out the exclamation mark.
It's all four. It's a full family.
It's a full family. It really is.
It's the Geo, the monkey, the tiger, and the exclamation mark.
Yeah, they all live in beautiful harmony together.
Although I usually say bang. I don't know why I keep calling that an exclamation mark for some reason.
Yeah, it definitely isn't bang Geo monkey tiger. It's definitely not that, or Geo monkey tiger bang. It's no. Don't even go there.
That's probably why I don't do it. And we just lost our family friendly tag.
Well, it is 10:08 on the East Coast, so
yes, it is. and I had an early morning today, and it's been a long day. All right. Thank you so much, because it has been at least a blast, even if we didn't get anything actually accomplished.
Thanks so much.
And check the Cachemaniac website at cachemaniacs.com for more on the Geo Gearheads, including show notes for this and all of our episodes. We love hearing from our listeners, so leave us feedback by emailing geogearheads@cachemaniacs.com or through social media. Your support helps keep the Cachemaniac shows coming. Please consider becoming a patron through the link on our website to support the Cachemaniac shows. Geo Gearheads is produced by Chris Suffenauer and Daryl Wanberg. This show is copyright 2020 by Daryl Wanberg. All rights reserved.
Cash with the Cachemaniacs.